Well, hello everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here today to talk about artificial intelligence and tech. Never thought I'd have those words coming out of my mouth, I have to tell you. But I have somebody with me who is really become an expert in this area, and that's Brendan Maher. And he is a person who regales from Geelong, Victoria, and runs his practice Mind Healthcare, which has 15 psychologists and a psychiatrist working with him. And he's been doing that for 15 years now, but probably is known to many people because he was the APS National Chair of the Clinical College between 2019 and 2021, which most people would have, ducked that one, Brendan. I'm not sure how you got that job of running a clinical college or anything really during those COVID years. But welcome to our little conversation, and thanks for being here.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Pleasure. So, part of the reason that we are getting together today is that you and a fellow author, which we will reveal in a moment, are actually are in the final stages of writing a book on psychology and tech. And it was my great pleasure to have a look at the manuscript. And you asked me, what should I call it? And you gave two options. And I said, the tech savvy psychologist is the winner. And I'm very pleased to see that possibly the book will be called that, and as far as we know. But I guess my question is, having written a book on it, for God's sake, what actually got you interested in digital technology?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I've kind of reflected on that a lot myself over the last couple of years, because I certainly haven't always been interested in digital technology. It's kind of something that I've come to over a period of time. A couple of years ago, I wrote an Insight article called The Highly Efficient Psychologist. And that's probably been my biggest interest over the last 15 years as a theme, is efficiency, how we can be as efficient as possible in private practice and how we can provide the best value to our clients. And that's where I've kind of come to an interest in digital technology. At the end of that article, we wrote a whole series of different predictions for 2030. So looking at what was going to happen in terms of efficiency in private practice over the next decade or so. And it really struck me that almost all of them, I think it was all bar one, had something to do with digital technology. And by the end of writing that article, I was kind of, that's what my next project is going to be, to explore this more and what digital technology is going to do for private practice over the next decade or so. So that's where my interests come from.
So you wouldn't have been surprised with our friend, our Minister of Health, Mark Butler, has announced on Friday that he was pouring some money into digital technology and digital health. And I think we're going to see more of this as time goes on. But I think that many psychologists are reluctant to embrace technology. And I hear what you're saying about efficiency, but in some ways it probably doesn't grab people. People are, I certainly come across practices that are not using even practice management software, who have still got hard copy files, who are still doing a bunch of, I wouldn't even say they were analog, they were more Neanderthal really, type of things. And the efficiency kind of motivator isn't their motivator. So what do we say to people like this who are not wanting to embrace technology?
Yeah, a really important topic. And we went into quite a bit of detail about this one in the book. And I think at its core, it makes a lot of sense as to why psychologists are a little bit reluctant to embrace digital technology. We're kind of on the front line of seeing a lot of the downside of digital technology and the implications that that can have for people's mental health. So I think that is really a barrier to psychologists embracing digital technology. I think there's also some unhelpful beliefs there about digital technology as well. I'm not good at tech can be a very common belief. And I think for psychologists, we've been able to get away with that for a long period of time. You can be a very good psychologist without being good at technology, but whether or not that's going to continue to be the case over the next 5 or 10 years, I think potentially changes. So the challenge potentially is for psychologists to challenge some of their own beliefs around tech and potentially turn what might be a weakness into something of a strength.
Well, I think also there's the fact that really, if we are so bad at technology, how is it we all manage telehealth? You know, if Medicare can turn around in 2 weeks and give us telehealth across Australia in 2020, early 2020, and allow us eventually to have 20 sessions for the period of the major parts of the pandemic, then, and we were delivering a lot of that on, obviously initially all on telehealth, then if we're so lacking in tech savvy, I don't buy it. Personally, I think, and I'm older than you and probably older than most of the people who are going to watch this video, can I tell you, because I'm talking to you from a nursing home, not really. But but my point is, if I can do it, you can do it. Like, I think that's the point, isn't it? That when we had to do it and our clients were relying on us and government was saying, we trust you, we want you to be able to deliver mental health services to people who are really hurting, we went, yep, we're up for that. Yep. And I think then to revert to, oh no, that's not in my wheelhouse, it's too hard to whatever. I guess that's really why you wrote the book.
Absolutely. And I think there can be a discrepancy between what psychologists do in their practice versus what they do in their personal life as well. So like, I think some of our habits are quite entrenched in private practice, and the challenge is potentially to change those a little bit and to embrace digital technology a little bit more. And it's getting that combination of utilizing digital technology whilst keeping that human touch as well. I think some psychologists might be reluctant because they don't want to lose that, the human touch element of it.
Yes. And I guess that takes us to the question of, you know, artificial intelligence or AI, which is part of tech, but I guess it's the thing that's grabbed people's attention, particularly Chat GPT. But AI in general is so it's everywhere. It's in everything we do. And there's some level of concern about it, but I think people are concerned about something they don't realize is already here. And that is really trying to find a way to support um, healthcare, for example. So can you say a bit about the impact of AI potentially on psychologists and how we should be thinking about that? Is it going to, a robot's going to take us over or what?
Very exciting area. And no, I don't think AI is going to take over the job of psychologists. What I think is fair to say, though, is psychologists who utilize AI are going to take over the job of psychologists who don't utilize AI. And that's maybe not as scary as it seems. We can say the same thing with email. Psychologists who utilize email have taken over from psychologists who don't use email. And the reason for that is because AI is going to make psychologists so much better that over time it's going to be necessary for us to embrace AI in order to be providing a good service to our clients. Probably the biggest learning for me as I was going about writing the book, or the aha moment, was recognizing the difference between incremental improvement versus exponential improvement. And us as psychologists, hopefully we're improving incrementally. We're making small improvements in our practice year on year as we learn and we grow. But AI is playing by completely different rules. AI is improving exponentially year on year. And that's where, if we look at, say, ChatGPT ChatGPT-4 and we look at some virtual agents and we put them together and go, okay, this is what AI would look like as a psychologist, we can do better than that as human psychologists. But if we start to think of what exponentially better ChatGPT-4 and virtual agents looks like, they're going to do a lot of the things that us psychologists do, only better. So we're going to have to fit in with that AI, and that's potentially a really exciting thing. I recently did a post about a journal article that I came across where they had 1,900 participants, half of which had a diagnosis of ASD and half didn't. And what they did was they took photos of the retinas of each of those people, ran it through an AI process, and the AI was able to predict with 100% accuracy those people who had an ASD diagnosis and those that didn't, and a very high level of prediction for the degree of severity for those people with ASD, which I thought was a very kind of practical example of where this technology is going, and is going to revolutionize some of those things that us psychologists in private practice might take for granted as something that we do at the moment, doing that initial assessment around ASD. One last thing about that study, after they did that, then they gave the AI 10% of the photo of that retina, and they were able to get just as good a results, which I thought was fascinating.
Wow. And I guess it just challenges us to think, why do we hold on to something like doing standard paper and pen, or even on an iPad type of assessments, when we could be using that technology and then focusing on what we do that value adds, the process of then deciding on a treatment approach that might involve also AI, might involve apps, might involve various supports that are available. I often say to people, where is it written anywhere that says you must see somebody for 50 to 55 minutes for a therapy session? That has been our tradition forever, from the days of Freud and so forth. But what would happen if we had a process where we saw people, we assessed them using AI, we coached them through a process, we put them in contact with wearables and apps that we could actually see the results, and then we were actually seeing them for 20-minute, much more regular sessions too, in some cases, or perhaps the AI would tell us this person needs more help, more support, or this person's actually doing all right and just needs encouragement and reassurance that they're on the right track. All of these are available to us. And when you keep getting this story about there's so much demand for mental health, you feel like saying, we can't make psychologists quickly enough. And we can't make mental health clinicians quickly enough, even with other courses that are available and other professions that are also in our space. But we need to also think about what else can we do that actually would utilize our, I guess, what we can contribute at the top of our scope.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And if we don't do that, if we don't embrace those types of potential opportunities, then it creates a window of opportunity for the tech companies to come in and to provide those services without psychologists being involved at all.
So thank you so much about introducing this topic of tech and AI in this first interview. We're going to complete this interview and come back, and I really encourage people to listen to the second interview, because we're really going to talk more about the, I guess, nuts and bolts of using digital technology, and a bit about some of the products and services around, about what's in your book. So stay with us, but we'll just have a little interlude.